What if you stop caring so much? Not in a careless way, not in a reckless way, but in a calm, controlled way. What if you stopped overthinking every little thing? Stopped worrying about what people think? Stopped trying to control every outcome? Most people live their lives under pressure. Pressure to be liked. Pressure to be right. Pressure to succeed. Pressure to not fail. And that pressure affects everything. How they speak. How they act. How they make decisions. They hesitate. They second-guess themselves. They replay conversations in their head. They imagine worst-case scenarios. And all of this comes from one place: caring too much about things they cannot control. Now here's the interesting part. The moment you reduce that pressure, everything changes. Not because the world changes, but because you do. When you act like nothing matters, you stop overthinking. You stop filtering every word. You stop worrying about judgment. And you start acting naturally. You speak more freely. You move more confidently. You make decisions faster. Because you're not trapped in your head anymore. You're present. And that presence creates confidence. Not fake confidence. Not loud confidence. But real confidence. The kind that doesn't need approval. The kind that doesn't need validation. Because it's not based on outcomes. It's based on mindset. Now let's be clear. Acting like nothing matters does not mean nothing matters. It means you are not emotionally controlled by everything. You still care about your goals. You still care about your life. But you don't let fear control your actions. You don't let outcomes define your self-worth. And that's a big difference. Because when you tie your self-worth to outcomes, everything becomes stressful. If things go well, you feel good. If things go wrong, you feel bad. And your emotions keep going up and down, based on things you cannot fully control. But when you separate your self-worth from outcomes, you become stable. You do your best. But you don't attach your identity to the result. And that creates freedom. Now think about social situations. When you care too much about what people think, you become cautious. You hesitate. You try to say the perfect thing. And that makes you awkward. Not because you lack social skills, but because you're overthinking. But when you act like nothing matters, you relax. You speak naturally. You stop trying to impress. And ironically, that's when you become more likable. Because people connect with authenticity, not perfection. Now think about opportunities. A job interview. A presentation. A chance to prove yourself. If you treat it like everything depends on it, you create pressure. You become tense. You overthink. You try too hard. And that affects your performance. But if you approach it with a different mindset, this matters but it's not everything. You relax. You think clearer. You perform better. Because you are not overwhelmed. You are focused. And that shift can make a huge difference. Now let's talk about fear. Fear is often based on what if. What if I fail? What if I embarrass myself? What if people judge me? And those thoughts stop you from acting. They keep you in your comfort zone. They limit your growth. But when you act like nothing matters, those fears lose their power. Because you're no longer giving them importance. You're no longer treating them like something that defines you. You're just acting, taking steps, moving forward. And over time, you realize something. Most of those fears were exaggerated. Most of those scenarios never happened. And even when things didn't go perfectly, you were still okay. And that builds confidence. Not from success alone, but from experience. From realizing that you can handle things. Now here's something important. There is a difference between confidence and carelessness. Confidence is calm, controlled, aware. Carelessness is reckless, ignoring consequences, ignoring responsibility. That's not what this is about. This is about balance, caring about what matters, but not overreacting to everything. Not letting small things control your mood. Not letting opinions control your actions. Because when you give everything importance, everything feels heavy. But when you choose what matters, life becomes lighter. Now let's make this practical. Start with small situations. Say something you would normally overthink. Take an action you would normally hesitate on. Express yourself without filtering too much. And observe what happens. Most of the time, nothing bad happens. People don't react the way you imagined. Situations don't fall apart. And you realize that your fear was bigger than reality. Then apply it to bigger situations, opportunities, decisions, challenges. Approach them with effort, but without emotional pressure. Do your best, but don't attach your identity to the result. And that creates consistency, because you're not held back by fear. You're not slowed down by overthinking. You're just moving, step by step. Now here's the deeper idea. When nothing controls you, you gain control. When opinions don't control you, you express yourself freely. When outcomes don't control you, you take more action. When fear doesn't control you, you grow faster. And that's where real change happens. Because most people are not limited by ability. They are limited by fear, by overthinking, by pressure. And once you remove those limits, your potential increases, not because you became someone new, but because you stopped holding yourself back. So remember this. Acting like nothing matters is not about ignoring life. It's about mastering your reaction to it. It's about choosing calm over panic, confidence over fear, action over hesitation. Because in the end, the people who move forward are not the ones who never feel fear. They are the ones who don't let it control them. And once you reach that point, life becomes simpler, decisions become easier, and you start doing things you once thought were impossible, not because they changed, but because you did.